Soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thoughts and harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse of only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, people, what's going on, man? We are back in the building. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody is blessed, man. Guys, please make sure, as always, you're smashing that like button, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. We're here with episode 4 of our Euro Club 4 Fold, taking, of course, a look at Bayern Munich, Juve, Lyon, and Barcelona. Now, obviously, the last couple of weeks, again, obviously, it's only, still pre-season, but the season is soon upon us, to be honest with you. Premier League, of course, kicks off this weekend. And most of the other leagues, actually, I believe they've kicked off. Scotland kicked off already, their Premiership, and a few other leagues around Europe. And the top leagues that we're going to be taking a look at for the rest of the season, they are going to kick off soon. So, without further ado, let's get into our teams. Now, let's take a look at Barcelona, man. What have they been up to in the last week or so? So, as you guys can, of course, see on your screen, Dani Olmo has finally joined, or rejoined, should I say, Barcelona from RB Leipzig, the Spain international. Obviously, won the Euros with Spain. Good player, man. Definitely a player I wanted at my team. Definitely a player, that I thought to myself, yo, man, if we can get someone like him, playing in, that kind of position, I think that'd be really, really good. But ultimately, he's gone to another team that I like, which is Barcelona. So I'm not too mad. I'm not too mad. It's kind of interesting with Barcelona's whole financial kind of situation. It's weird because it's like they do have money, but then they don't have money. I don't know. It just seems very, very weird when it does come to Barcelona. He signed on a 6-year contract. The fee's worth around 60 million euros. I know there's add-ons and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually pay for that. I think the only way Barcelona can start paying for these players is they're going to have to start winning. They're really going to have to go back to winning, or you're going to have to sell someone because they've got high wages. Lewandowski, Frankie de Jong, players of that kind of ilk. So maybe it might be a case of they're going to have to start letting some players go, potentially, especially if they, are trying to, bring players in. I think that's going to be key. And we know that, another player that they really wanted to sign was, Nico Williams. But he looks like after being given the number 10 at Athletic Bilbao, that he's going to stay. So at least for another season at the bare minimum, he's going to stay there. And it looks like, he might go down the same route as a Munaim, if you guys remember him, for Athletic Bilbao. And he stayed there for ages. He stayed there for ages. You know what I mean? So I don't see Barcelona being able to sign him, as of right now. And to be fair, it's probably good for Nico Williams. You know what I mean? Just still kind of development. But I think if you continue in the trajectory that he was kind of going in, then I feel like, yeah, it's pretty calm. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Then you can get that big move potentially when Barcelona may be in a better state, maybe in a better position. And of course, other teams as well are going to be, potentially looking at that. Obviously, we've got Sergi Roberto. He has officially left Barcelona. He's been there, if my calculations are correct, he's been there since 2000. Well, been with Barcelona, technically, the youth team, since 2006. We're now in 2024. That is a very, very, very long time. Coming through the youth system there, obviously, he was at Gymnastique prior to that. He's been a good servant, if I'm being honest, for the football club. Played for Spain, of course. He's got his Spain caps as well. But, they bid farewell to him, man. They bid farewell to him. And as I said, he reminds me of Nacho for Real Madrid. Them kind of players where you're just like, oh, okay, cool. You've been here for a while. You've been here for years. You never, he had this period of, he would have had a couple of seasons thrown in there where he's been able to, play quite a lot of games, here and there. But you know, as an overall, I think he's just been a really good servant, if I'm being totally honest, to Barcelona. Won God knows how many in trophies, with them. La Liga, he's won Copa del Rey, Champions League, he's won twice, UEFA Super Cup, Club World Cup, So he's done his thing, man. He's done his thing. But again, like I said, Spain, Barcelona need to, keep it moving with some of these players and stuff like that. Not because they're poor or anything, just more like, okay, we need to start entering into a new phase. The Gavis, the Pedris, I know they're always injured, but Ansu Fati's, Lamine Yamal's, like they've got other players, coming through and can be the kind of new face and the new heads of Barcelona, and they have to continue moving forward. Otherwise, you get left behind. You get then in 10, 15 years' time, you just get known as that club. And then all we talk about is one period of time, obviously under Pep Guardiola, with like Messi, Luis Suarez, Neymar, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. Like, you start just talking about that kind of stuff, even though that was probably the best period of football I've ever seen in my life. But you need to kind of move on. You need to be able to move on. Barcelona did play a couple of friendlies. They played against Milan. They drew 2-2 in that game. Decent game. Obviously, Lewandowski getting the 2 goals. He's interesting, man. I wonder, like, for me, this has to be his last season. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I just find it a little bit frustrating. I heard a few things as well about, and again, just rumors in regards to Lewandowski. Like, some of the players were kind of saying last season that it's hard to like press with someone like Lewandowski up front. Finishing, we know what he's about. He's cold, but when it's like it's weird because Haaland is kind of is similar, but Haaland's a bit more dynamic, obviously, because of how young he is and the type of athlete that he actually is. But with Lewandowski, you literally can't do anything with him. Like, he has to basically stay in one position in order for things to kind of work out. But listen, man, it is what it is. They did play another game where they lost 3-0 to Monaco. Which was quite a shock, if I'm being totally honest with you, losing 3-0 to Monaco like that. So definitely something to think about before their first game, of the season. They had a pretty strong-ish team. Well, from the defense anyway, pretty strong. Up front, Rafinha, Lewandowski. Midfield, obviously, they had Bernal and Casado. So, of course, yeah, it was like a mixture, but even still, to lose 3-0, to Monaco like that, I think is a little bit disappointing. Not to say there's anything to necessarily worry about, but just more like, hey, guys, let's, you know what I mean? Let's kind of sort that out, just before the season starts. Let's hope that that's just one of those kind of things and one of those, kind of games. Now, let's move on to our next team. So, taking a look at Juventus. First bit of news in regards to Juventus. They got quite a bit of, stuff like in terms of transfers. Obviously, we know Thiago Motta kind of coming in. They want to, he wants to get his own kind of players in. He's let a couple of players, already leave. But one of the players who will be terminating his contract is Szczesny, former Arsenal goalkeeper. Been there for years now, man. It's crazy. I think when he first made that move, I can never forget thinking to myself, wow, like, they really went to go sign him. But I always think these kind of moves only happen in Europe. In England, you don't really get these kind of like weird deals like that. Obviously, you get like a few. There's going to be the anomalies, here and there. But in a general sense, I just thought it was such a weird deal in the first place. But listen, he's been a servant there. Do you know what I mean? He's done his thing, whilst being, at Juventus. But of course, he will be terminating his contract. Looking at the incomings, one of the things I saw recently was that Juve, posted out by Fabrizio, Juve keep working on 2 new wingers for Thiago Motta after the Karim Adeyemi deal 100% off. Negotiations continue for Nico Gonzalez, playing for Fiorentina, while Juventus have also approached Sporting in the last 24 hours. Juve have asked for conditions for Marcus Edwards, former Tottenham player. I think he's a decent little player. Maybe that's the type of winger that he's looking for, although I feel like Saul, I don't know, it's a bit weird, man. But then, sometimes I can't really complain at it, because sometimes you might just look at a player and just think, you know what, there's a certain type of player that I want, and certain players just don't really fit what I'm trying to do in whatever asset or whatever facet of the game that I'm trying to, implement here at the club. So maybe, Saul's just, one of those kind of things. And then we've got Kalulu, the AC Milan defender. Apparently he wasn't part of the squad for the game that AC Milan had before. in the last couple of days. Apparently his move to Juventus is at its final stages. So, he's trying to bring in some more players. Got Kefren Turam, got Douglas Luiz, amongst a few other players as well. So, yeah, again, quite interesting. Interesting bit of news, though, was from Coop Miners. Now, Gasparini, the Atalanta manager, he was saying, it's right now, it's a bit peak for Coop Miners. I'll be honest, it's sounding a little bit peak, just because he wants to move obviously to Juventus. I get it, of course. Who wouldn't? You're playing for Atalanta, even though they are a solid team. Just won the Europa League as well. Got the Super Cup to come, in the Champions League, next season. But ultimately, you kind of want to obviously, it's Juventus. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. You want to move on, and kind of play over there. And at the moment, I don't know if it's him trying to force a deal, so to speak, or if it's more of a case of Juve are trying to, I don't know, Atalanta are maybe playing hardball, maybe Juve are not really playing ball at all. I don't know. It's all kind of a mess at the moment. And I even saw something on social media where the Atalanta fans, there was a picture of a mural outside somewhere, on near the stadium, I believe, anyway, or somewhere in Italy. And someone was taking a picture and they put their hand over Coop Miner's face, just to block him out. And then obviously took the picture without Coop Miners basically being in there. I've seen quite a few Atalanta fans, kind of turning, would I say, somewhat on Coop Miners. And not to, listen, I'm not here to judge. Hey, listen, it's your team, it's your players. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel, man. That's how you feel at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's a bit of a sticky time for someone like Coop Miners, but just hold on for that though. I think that's going to be something that's going to potentially ramp up in the next few days, if not week. So it's going to be interesting to see, just before Juve's first game, especially, and Atalanta's first game of the Serie A season. Now let's move on to the next team. So taking a look at Bayern Munich. So as we already know, they've sold Ligt and Mazraoui. Both players have gone to Manchester United. I saw there was a petition, I think, to keep Ligt at the football club. Sign, fans were saying, nah, he can't go, etc., etc. I hear it. You see, with Ligt, yeah, even just on that deal in general, it's weird. I don't know. I think when you've been touted, obviously, from such a young age, I'm talking 17, 18, when he's breaking through that Ajax team, we know what the Ajax team obviously did. We saw them get to the semi-finals of the Champions League, just narrowly losing out to Tottenham. They had a good little nucleus of a team. Van den Beek, was in that team, and, a couple of other players, were in and around that team. But when I think of someone like him, I just think that maybe it's the overrating of him. Maybe that might actually be the thing. Maybe we as fans have overrated someone like De Ligt, and we didn't really allow him to kind of, develop into the player that he is. But I've always said this. Ultimately, for me, I don't care what clubs you're moving to. It's very telling when you've moved to the amount of clubs that he has since he actually left, Ajax in the first place. He's played for some top Juventus, Bayern Munich, and now he's at Manchester United. Now, again, it all depends on the way you kind of see it, so to speak, when it comes to someone like De Ligt. But to have moved that many times, he left Ajax in 2019. Now we're 2024, which is 5 years later. He's now at Manchester United. So in that time, you've played for two. Now you're onto your third club. Again, like I said, it might just be the overrating of someone like De Ligt, but I don't know. It's weird. He's 25 years of age now. Just turned 25, to be fair. So it is a bit I don't know. I really, really don't know. When it does come to someone like him, I just think right now, I think he's got more to prove than anything else. Because he needs to kind of prove, are you this top defender that everybody touted you to be? And again, I'm not saying I don't know how far people rated him, but he was a good defender, when he was at Ajax anyway, which is why people wanted to sign him. But I still look at him and think, yeah, you've not really hit any type of height. I'll be honest with you. You haven't impressed at Juve. You haven't really impressed at Bayern Munich. Again, these clubs are willing to let you leave for a reason. If they were willing for you to stay, then you would still be at Juventus. Heck, you'd still be at Bayern Munich. But again, Bayern were willing to let you go. And Bayern are not really, would I say, flushed, if I'm being honest with you, with bare centre-backs or bare good ones. You got Upamecano, Kim Min-jae, Ito, and he's injured, Eric Dyer. So to me, that's more telling than anything. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player for Manchester United. I hope he's not. I hope he fails at Manchester United just because. But ultimately, if that's the centre backs that they've got, and they've said, yeah, we can let Ligt go. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, you know, these are the kind of things I start to look at and just think, I don't know, man. Like, heck, whether Vincent Company wanted him to leave or not, I don't actually know. Maybe if he did potentially try to fight for him, I don't know. But ultimately, I do look at those kind of things, and you know, I do think to myself, I don't know, man. Like, I need to. For me, he's got a lot to prove. Like, I'm not totally convinced on Matthias de Ligt just yet. But again, he could be, you know, he could prove us, you know, all wrong. Let's move on to the actual game that they played. They won 3-0 recently against Tyrrell. I think it's Tyrrell or Tyrell, or whatever you want to call them. You know, one player who stood out for me in this kind of game, and he came on, was Irakunda, man. I really like Irakunda, man. I really big up the Aussies, man. But he looks like a good player. He's raw with it, but yeah, he's raw with it. But it's almost like that works for him. You know, some players you're like, yeah, he's a bit too raw. You know, he needs to refine his game. I almost feel like for him, it actually kind of a bit like, and I'm not saying they're going to be similar players or similar level of players. A bit like Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane for me was just a raw kind of individual, but it worked for him. You know, it wasn't clean with most of what he was doing, but it worked for his style of play. Irakunda does remind me, you know, a lot like that. So listen, man, I'm super interested to see, you know, how he does, you know, in the future. Let's go on to our last team, and that is Lyon. So, as we do know, Lyon, of course, played against Arsenal. I think it's just the Emirates Cup. They lost 2-0 in that game. Not really much, too much transfer news in and around Lyon, if I'm being totally honest with you. Obviously, they've got in, there's the Georgian striker. So, you know, it's just really about, you know, getting started for the season. Kakare, he's a player that, you know, a lot of Liverpool fans have been looking at. Could he potentially be on the move? I've not heard anything, but could that be something, you know, potentially? Good to see, I guess, Maitland-Niles back at Arsenal as well. I didn't watch the, I watched the highlights of the game, but I didn't hear the crowd like getting on to him, so to speak. Maybe there was boos and stuff like that. It would be interesting to see. But again, he was kind of like on the fringes and wanted, you know, game time, etc., etc. So, you know, it would have been a little bit different for someone, you know, someone like him. But with all of this, ultimately, we are gearing up, as I said before, for the first games, you know, of the season. I'm I've said it already like numerous amount of times when it does come to this season. I'm intrigued to see, you know, exactly what's going to happen, you know, in regards to, you know, how the season is going to go for certain teams. You know, at the moment, I don't know, in terms of like winning the leagues and stuff like that. So if I take a look at Syria, I think Inter for me are the strongest team in that league. Like for me anyway, going into this season. So I am looking more at Inter. Juve, I think, could put up a challenge, but I am looking at them. Barcelona, I think, again, Real Madrid look like the strongest team. Barcelona, again, they could put up a challenge, but I do think it will depend on quite a few factors. Lyon, obviously finishing Europa League last season. I think for them, I'm looking at, can you potentially push for a Champions League spot? You know, that would be really, really good. And then Bayern Munich, I think they will challenge for the title. So all 4 teams, I'm not really confident that they can win the leagues, but like I say, man, you never really and truly know, if I'm being, you know, 100% honest with you. Juve's first Serie A game, I believe, is against Como. So they're going to play that game at home. Barcelona's first Premier La Liga game is going to be against Valencia away. That's going to be tricky. We know about Mamadashvili potentially moving, you know, to Liverpool. Lyon, their first game is against Stade Rennes. That game is away. And then, well, Bayern have got their DFB Pokal game. That's on Friday, actually. So we will talk about that next week. But their first Bundesliga game is against Wolfsburg away. So Juve, I believe, yep, they're the only team who are going to be playing at home in their first game. So let's wait and see. You know, on all of these teams. Big up everybody who has watched this video. Make sure you guys, of course, you smash that like button. Make sure you share and subscribe to the damn channel. I will catch you guys on episode 5 after we will be looking at the first game. How does it go for all 4 teams? Let me know how many wins you think that these teams will get. I'm going to predict 1. I'm gonna predict a win for Juve. I'm gonna predict, obviously, Bayern are in the cup game, so yeah, they'll win that game. So yeah, we'll say 2 wins there, and I think Barca will win. So it's 3 wins, and I think Lyon will draw. So 3 wins and 1 draw. Let me know your predictions for this week's up and coming games, and I'll catch you next week, people. Peace.